Remaining in word, we'll practice this affirmation for self-healing from Swamiji. This week is on the quality renunciation. Renunciation means turning one's back on non-essentials, that we may give our whole attention to the Lord. We might think of renunciation as an investment, which initially may seem a loss, but in time becomes multiplied to many times its original worth. The least gift that we give to God will return to us in divine blessings 1,000-fold. Renunciation means nothing less than the gift to God of oneself. Renunciation is of the heart. It isn't what you wear or the outward rules you follow. When you renounce all for God, you hold that renunciation as a precious secret between you and Him. All your desires, all your ambitions, then, are for Him alone. We'll now practice the affirmation, first loudly repeating after me. I spurn the tempting magic.
I spurn the tempting magic
Of this world.
Of this world.
With its rainbow bubbles.
With its rainbow bubbles.
Ever ready to burst.
Ever ready to burst.
See where I fly.
See where I fly.
High above the tall mountains.
High above the tall mountains.
I am free.
I am free.
I am free.
I am free.
Now again in a speaking voice this time, repeating again after me. I spurn the tempting magic.
I spurn the tempting magic.
Of this world.
Of this world.
With its rainbow bubbles.
With its rainbow bubbles.
Ever ready to burst.
Ever ready to burst.
See where I fly.
See where I fly.
High above the tall mountains.
High above the tall mountains.
I am free.
I am free.
I am free.
I am free.
Now in a whisper, bringing it deep into your subconscious. I spurn the tempting magic.
I spurn the tempting magic.
Of this world.
Of this world.
With its rainbow bubbles. Ever ready to burst. See where I fly. High above the tall mountains.
High above the tall.
I am free. I am free. Now silently bringing the affirmation to the superconscious mind. Really focus at the point between the eyebrows as you repeat mentally. I spurn the tempting magic of this world. With its rainbow bubbles ever ready to burst. See where I fly high above the tall mountains. I am free. I am free. Now, feeling this prayer in your heart as I read the words. Lord, help me to see that in no outward experience will I ever find fulfillment. All that my heart has ever sought awaits me in Thee. Welcome everyone to this week. This is week 29. Self-effort too is needed. We'll be reading from the weekly commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita, Rays of the One Light. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. These past weeks, we discussed the need for balancing self-effort with receptivity to divine grace. Both are important in the spiritual life. Passive dependence on grace hasn't the magnetism to attract grace. Boastful self-confidence, however, which closes itself off from the higher divine power, is shallow, brittle, and, given life's many uncertainties, susceptible to ultimate failure. There is a story in the Bible that illustrates the need to put forth personal effort so as to draw magnetically on the divine power. The story occurs in the Gospel of St. Luke, chapter 8. But as he went, the crowds nearly suffocated him. Among them was a woman who had had a hemorrhage for 12 years and who had derived no benefit from anybody's treatment. She came up behind Jesus and touched the edge of his cloak. As a result, her hemorrhage stopped immediately. "Who was it who touched me?" Jesus asked. When everybody denied it, Peter remonstrated, "Master, the crowds are all round, pressing you on every side." But Jesus said, "Somebody touched me. I felt power go out of me." When the woman realized that she had not escaped notice, she came forward trembling and fell at his feet, and admitted before everyone why she had touched him, adding that she had been instantaneously cured. "Daughter," Jesus said, "it is by your faith that you have been healed. Go in peace." Self-confidence and self-effort are necessary, as the ignition of a car is necessary to the motor. Of what use the ignition, however, if the motor itself will not work? Wise is he who recognizes the real power in the universe and guides his life by that supreme power. As it says in the Bhagavad Gita, the 9th chapter, "To those who meditate on me as their very own, ever united to me by incessant worship, I make good their deficiencies and render permanent their gains." Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
Ah, what a joy to see everyone. I reflecting on this week, it's kind of an interesting topic as usual. It reflects on something that we can all relate to. And this week, at the beginning of this week, I was feeling a little overwhelmed, I guess, and anxious around how much I had going on in my life. And we'd been relatively busy with work and children and in-laws and outlaws and
Young children, old children.
young children, old children, moving temples and finalizing things and trying to reinvent new ones. And I was on the way to
School.
starting school coming up, and I was on my way to work in the car, and I felt myself really unsettled, and I was like, oh, it was like an anxiety. Sometimes you feel it when you sit to meditate. You sit to meditate, and you're like, hold on, I've got to do this. I better make this one quick. Or you're in the middle of it. You've always got something else that you've got to be doing. And so I kind of had that perpetuous feeling, and I was like, what is this? Like, why am I doing this to myself? Because I'm doing it to me. Like, it's me, no one else. And at that moment, I was like, where is the feeling first and foremost? And then what am I doing with it? I have these amazing gurus who relentlessly show us these, and I call them miracles. They're not like, walking on water miracles, but they're constantly helping us do things. We're always asking. And, it's like at the end of the week, you go, oh, yep, tick, 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 as you go down the list. And I'm like, at what point do I not have faith to go about my life with the faith that we are looked after, with the faith that we have a guru, we have a line of gurus that are constantly there. And like we always say to our children, it's like, we're on your side, regardless of what's happening. We're on your side. We want you to succeed. We want you to achieve in whatever you do. And, and it made me realize that, in this, at the moment I handed it to them, everything that I was doing, this amazing peace came over. And it wasn't peace born of being in a car. It wasn't peace born that I was enjoying a nice cup of coffee and a sandwich while I was driving to work. It was peace born of them knowing that they are looking after us. But it took effort. That's what I noticed is it actually took effort for me to surrender those feelings. And it's such an interesting thing when you think about it. Everything that we do does take an amount of effort to put into it. We need to start it. We need to crank it. You talk about friction. Friction's an interesting thing. There's static friction and, it's like a big cardboard box or something you've got to move. You put all this effort into it, but once you start moving, it gets moving, doesn't it? Obviously depending on service, but that first little amount of effort keeps going. And you know, I noticed within myself that I had to put effort to get rid of that feeling of overwhelm, that feeling of anxiety, that feeling of I need to do something. Because our world is like that, isn't it? Everything that we do, we're out there and it's like, whether it's you know, going to work, and I'm talking about the negative feelings, but we attract those after a while if we start feeling them all the time, like attracts like. We start feeling and getting those things on board and we start grabbing them. And alternatively, it's like if we think that we get joy from, ice cream, or if we get joy from, a good meal, or we get joy from, going outside in the sun, and we think that that thing's giving us joy, um, it's it's short-lived. It doesn't get there, but it takes energy to know that that feeling actually is within us. That feeling of when I step outside and there's this beautiful ray of sun and it's hot and warm, next time it's 2 degrees, outside in the same spot. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, I'm not quite sure I'm enjoying this. But really, the feeling of joy was within us, and we should be able to enhance that anywhere. And Swami wrote a song like that one day. He was driving in a car. You might remind me of the song, but he was driving in the rain. He was running late for an appointment, and it was absolutely pouring down rain on him. And like he couldn't barely see where he was going. He's like, just a week ago, I was driving this same road and it was amazing and I was enjoying myself and that was within me. And all of a sudden he went, I'm going to bring that joy back. I'm going to make it sunshine within my car. I'm going to make it sunshine within me. And ironically, during that time, he literally took time to write a song, and it's a joy within me song. I'll find it, send it out. But what an amazing amount of effort. But it takes energy to do that, and it reminds me of when you're a kid, or when you're a parent, actually, more than the kid. But you're teaching a kid how to swing and build that momentum on a swing, and as you're doing it, you're seeing that joy of the swing and it's going and it's going, it's going, it's going. But ultimately, you're the one that's putting that energy in. The energy's coming from you pushing that swing. And likewise, when you need to slow that swing down, if you think about that swing going back and forth, you need to use just as much energy actually to slow that swing back down. Every part of it means that we're creating energy. And as in life, if we're putting our energy to the swing and we're thinking that it's out there, we still need that amount of energy to slow it down. We need to stop it. But once we find that and we know that that joy is within us, it's an amazing thing. It's always there and we have that ability. And there's a caution to that because we talk about yoga and we talk about that being sort of numb to the world. We don't want to be numb to the world. We can still enjoy a good dolloping of ice cream, or we can still enjoy a beautiful sunset, or we can still enjoy those things. But it's being centered, it's coming back to the person that's pushing the swing, knowing where that joy comes from, that you then can have joy in all things in life. And of course, that doesn't mean that we want to, if someone's suffering terribly, or we don't want to come to them with outward joy, But the fact that you have joy within you, you have that light within you, you can use that joy for empathy. You can use that joy to share the feeling that you know that they're suffering and that they're going through. But because it's coming from a place within, it has less effect on you rather than you getting down with them and then you're perpetuating this downward spiral of sadness or grief or whatever it is. You know that you are that, but you can share empathy and know that and hold that strong within. And then it doesn't matter what's happening around you. And that's where that beautiful swan picture comes in. We have this beautiful swan on the outside and the little feet that are going inside. We can share that energy, but still be a beautiful swan within us, knowing that the source is within us always.
Thank you, Nara. You can feel his joy.
Oh,
Yes?
I was going to share one whispers just before I go, and
Where are you going? Just kidding.
before I go. Sit here. But it's, yeah, demand that through all tests and trials that love of God may never fade. And it's from Whispers of Eternity. So, Spirit, I cannot, if all suffering comes to me, all things be taken away from me. I pray only that my love for thee never fade through my own negligence. May my love for thee burn brightly forever on the altar of my constant remembrance.
Thank you. There's a children's song called Lightly I Fly, and it's actually about the path of renunciation in this new age. And it's lightly I fly when I live in laughter, lightly I fly when my heart sings. And it's gorgeous because it's so true that the more you allow your heart to be free, the more you can go through life with that sense of joy. And, you know, tying in the affirmation, which Swamiji picked for us of renunciation, and how the Gita passage for this week, too, really talks about renunciation today in this age of energy, where many of us are balancing careers, we're balancing families, loved ones, parents in need, children in need, pets who need us, plants and gardens who need us,
People that need pets.
people who need pets, neighbors. It's just something that, we have to try to apply renunciation to that. So, what does that mean for us but to live lightly, where we go through life less so much intensely in it, but rather freely being a part of it? And from that space, you find that you're able to find that sense of joy from your meditation, from your seva, from anything that you do with, as it said here. I have to read it directly because it's so powerful. To those who meditate on me as their very own, ever united to me by incessant worship. Now, thinking about that, that's the idea of mantra or japa or just keeping our mind on a quality. That's something that I really appreciated from Jyotish. He said, sometimes it's hard to think of God all the time, but if you think of living joy or living love or being calm, calmly active, actively calm, if you think of manifesting a quality of God, then it can be something that you don't let go of throughout your day. And a lot of times at Ananda, it's all about remembering. So there's this little challenge that people do as a Sangha where you set an alarm and then you reset it every time you forget God. Or you could say to yourself, it goes off every, minute for 10 minutes. So you just give yourself, some people do it on a walk that they do every day or a commute or something where they know they've got that space and time to give it their full practice. And then the goal is that you continue to extend that amount of time where you bring God into that moment, as they said here. Oops, I went to the wrong page. Incessantly. So without ceasing, really. So never stopping. And there's a really beautiful example of Brother Lawrence. Is it Father Lawrence or brother? But he was known for inspiring many people by his inward conversation with God that was always going on. But he was deep and still, like he wasn't outwardly talking, but you could see that he was in conversation internally. And then they said that when he would stand up to give a service or a sermon, it would actually be like a window into that conversation. So it was a stream that was always happening. And then he would just for a moment share it so that the people around him could feel and see that relationship with God. And he was so free. He was a light being. And you think of what are the qualities of someone who is a true renunciate? And you think of, an Indian sadhu along the Ganges, but they have a joy, don't they? There's many people in our group here that have had an experience where they meet a saint or someone who's living in spirit and attuned to God nearly incessantly, perhaps not in perfection, but near perfection. And you'll see that they can go through anything with lightness because they're not attached to the moment. They're just allowing the moment to flow through their life. And with that, they find that freedom that we're all really seeking. And um, the other thing about this, which speaks to more the story you were sharing, is rendering permanent their gains and making good their deficiencies. That's the guru's and God's grace through guru and our relationship with guru. That's the blessing of having somebody there to help us get through our karmic lessons. But then once you rise to those occasions and give out more energy than the lesson itself, and you learn that lesson, you don't have to do it again. And next time something comes, it won't bring suffering because you'll have renounced the ego that is activated in those moments. And so to know that it's permanent, that that change lives in you now, and you don't have to do it again because you've brought Master and God or Divine Mother into that moment. That's such a nice thing to know and to be able to be free even more. So every time you go through a test and a trial, what do you think happens? Do you get heavier or lighter? If you rise to the occasion, you continue to get lighter and lighter and lighter. And that's why eventually people have that siddhi or power of actually levitating. That's because their heart, it's actually the purified heart chakra that is so um like it's the perfect light has basically all the energy has risen. And because there's no attachments in the heart, the siddhi of that power is to levitate. So nothing's holding you on earth. And then to make good their deficiencies, well, isn't that comforting? Because it's basically saying, if you can't heal yourself, my power through your magnetism of your love for me, your devotion, your renouncing the things of this world for love for me, because how can we have space in our heart for true love if we're holding on to all those attachments? So every time we let go of the things blocking that love, it makes more space for God's love, and we become lighter and more free. And God can take away a little lesson there or a little habit there. And one day you look back and you think, all I did was focus on loving you, and look what you've created. The best version of myself that I've always wanted to be, but I didn't know how because I let you in and now you've freed me. And so, with that inspiration and encouragement from these masters, we have a song for you, Door of My Heart, but the choral version. So, it's perfect for today.
But also, while you're setting that